Do you read me?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some, hurrah! What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Pacho in the house. Friday night's Eve, baby Friday. Goddamn, it's almost the weekend. For most of you, for those of us who kind of are self-employed and always getting our hustle on, it's pretty much day on, stay on, like we used to say in the Marine Corps. Hey, we got a really good show for you today. We got a really cool guest. He and I had an amazing conversation during the week. But let's get all the pleasantries out of the way before we get started. Hey, when was the last time that you made sure that you were properly insured and that your family's properly protected? Well, September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. So if you happen to be in a product like a whole life, index, variable, some type of even a term policy, when was the last time you looked at it? When was the last time that somebody kind of walked you through the whole process, letting you know what type of product that you have, and if you're properly protected, overprotected, or underprotected? So if you're curious about that and you want to have a conversation, please hit me up at the show. I'll be more than glad to assist you. We can just have a quick 30-minute conversation, and if something makes sense, we can explore your options, and if it makes sense, we can dive down a little deeper. And if not, that's okay. You can say so. No harm, no foul. We're still friends. So let me at least guide you and give you some tangible information. I promise I won't waste your time. If anything, you will be more empowered and have more education at the end, because knowledge is power. The other thing that I encourage you to do is, you always hear me talking about in the show, is basically, apply for your VA benefits, whether you've been out a year, less, or many years. It's never too late to apply. These are benefits that you earn. You raise your right hand to defend our Constitution against enemies, all foreign and domestic, ... So you've earned these through and through. And the older we get, the more these problems and issues, service-related, are going to get worse. So wouldn't you like to get not only compensated, but also get seen and treated for it without hitting you in the pocket? Well, let me help you. I can show you how. I'm the type of person, I'll show you how to fish. So that way, as when we're applying for your benefits, you'll also learn the process and how to do it and handle it on your own. So again, you go on the show. It's right there on my website. Drop me a DM, because you can also follow me on all social platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. You can also find me on Spotify and all those other resources. Hit me up. We can have a conversation and then go from there. Because in this show, whether we agree or disagree, in a time and age where pretty much we're so divided, it's okay to agree or disagree. So if you like this show, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. I have over 7,500 of you follow me on the Facebook page. Do me a favor. Why don't you hook me up? Go on my YouTube, my LinkedIn, as well as on my TikTok and all the other channels. Just help me with the analytics. I don't get paid a dime for doing this. I just do it out of the kindness of my heart, and because me telling my story or telling your story with my guests also is therapeutic for me. So it's kind of like somewhat selfish. However, this is I like to at least be able to pay for the lights while we're doing this show. So help your boy out, and listen. The folks at Sitchradio.com, I can't talk enough about them. They're the ones who allow us to use this platform to share this information with you. Please go on their channels. Hit Brian Colburn. He's an amazing coach and mentor. He can help you many different ways, like he has helped me. So just gotta have a conversation. So again, because we're all about the first, all our constitutional rights. And again, I supported and defended the Constitution. So wouldn't you like to at least have a conversation and support your fellow podcasts? All right. So that's pretty much for all the pleasantries, everybody. My next guest, he served for many years in the Navy. His story doesn't just inspire; it pretty much it slaps you awake. He and I kind of walked in the same type of coral frame shoes. Get it, because we wear coral frames while we're in dress uniform. And we had an amazing conversation, so much so that I was like, dude, we got to get together and talk about this shit on the show. So, his voice, they couldn't keep him quiet. He got louder. And by him working on himself, he also is now helping others. So let me just bring Rob Greene to our show. Let's give him a big round of applause. What's going on, Rob?
Morning. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate being here.
Hey, man. Yeah. Been looking forward to this. So let's get all the pleasantries out of the way. Just tell us what branch you serve. What was your MOS? What did you do in your branch? Where were you stationed? Did you deploy? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I was a hospital corpsman in the U.S. Navy, and I have a soft spot for Marines because I was deployed with you guys. All of your insanity and craziness, gotta love them. So I was deployed aboard the USS Nashville in 2003. First deployment, we went all around the Middle East in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then we did a stint off the coast of Liberia during the Civil War in 2003. And then our second deployment was a humanitarian aid mission in Eastern Europe. After that, I was stationed in Naval Hospital, Yokosuka, Japan. I did 2.5 years there. And that's when I decided to get out of the Navy. So during my deployment, we experienced a lot of different things with helping people get out of the war-torn countries and medical emergencies and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Obviously, so when you get out, because today's episode is basically for those of us who feel like nobody gets it. Like, hey, nobody can tell my if I tell my story, people are, what are people going to think of me? Or, I keep telling the VA this, however, they just keep going a different route and, where I'm trying to be heard, but nothing, basically I'm not getting any closure on my issues or the root causes. So when did you kind of started, noticing like, hey, shit, I have all this remaining stuff, this trauma or these things? When did you start noticing that? And I guess what was a little bit of your journey as to trying to get better to some degree?
Yeah, I think seeking help is stigmatized, especially the time that we were. I was joined in 2002, so it was a different military back then.
Yeah,
it wasn't political correctness and all that kind of stuff. So seeking help was really stigmatized, right? And especially being a corpsman, you're the guy that has to have everything figured out. You're the guy that people turn to. So the idea of going to seek help isn't something it's not really something to be proud of, I guess. Especially that was a listening back in those days. So there I had a lot of issues during the time in. I got a few alcohol-related incidences, had some disciplinary stuff, major depression. When I was deployed, I lost my stepmother and I had to fly home in the middle of a deployment, go to her funeral, take care of that stuff, then fly right back out there. And that really caused me a lot of different stress, and I dealt with it in really, I guess, standard ways back then. You drown out in a bottle, hang out with your buddies, go to the strip club, don't talk about it, and keep it moving. That's what we did back then, right? So I think it takes about a good 2.5 to 3 years after getting out for things to start unpacking. And the reason I say that is because in the military, we're psychologically conditioned to compartmentalize our emotions and compartmentalize our experiences because it's effective in that environment. Yeah. And it's reinforced by our community and our culture, right? You're not going to get together with a group of Marines and say, hey, man, let's talk about how we feel. Like, it just doesn't happen ever. I don't want to hear that shit. Suck it the fuck up. Quit crying.
Yeah. Right? Get a bitch, man. Have a beer.
Yeah. have a beer, let's go to the strip club, let's go to the club, find a new set of legs to crawl between, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you're not in an environment that reinforces that culture, it slowly starts to unravel because you have nobody around to validate that frame of thinking, to enable you to do that. When you get out and you're around normal run-of-the-mill civilians, all of the behaviors that we consider normal to them are appalling.
Right.
Like the way that we belittle each other, the subtle racist jokes, the digging in and making fun of people's sensitivities, all that kind of stuff. Like, to them, they don't understand using vulgar, offensive language, dark humor, all that. You try to do that around civilians, they're shocked almost. Oh my God, how can you say that? So I think being exposed to that environment where you have to kind of adjust to different people is when things start to unpack. So it takes about 2.5 to 3 years. So when I got out in 2008, 2010 was a point where I was starting to act inappropriately, I guess, in regular situations with normal people. And from there, it started spiraling into more kind of stuff. But to answer your question, after getting out of the environment where you've been psychologically conditioned and enabled to compartmentalize stuff, it takes a little while, probably a minimum 2 to 3 years, and that's when things start unpacking. It's when those demons come knocking at your door.
Yeah. No, and you're right, because when I retired out of the service, I got so overly, I was going through a divorce at the time, making steps to just kind of leave that situation, and that's another story. But it wasn't really until like 18, 19 time frame after I retired, where, because I got so sucked into, hey, now I gotta grind and freaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no longer a Marine, but I'm the safety guy now, and then all that bottled up stuff just kind of started coming out. I was like, man, I'm falling apart again at the seams, and I'm going kind of silent. So what moment, I guess, the things kind of started unraveling for you, and where do you feel like, as you're trying to get help with the VA, where did it feel like, okay, this is kind of not working for me, is more failing me, and what needs to change?
Okay. So for me, it was really around 2015. So that's almost 8 years after I got out.
Okay.
I lost my father to suicide. And this happened when I was on a volunteer humanitarian aid project in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. There was a super typhoon that hit a region in the Philippines, and I was there volunteering, digging bodies out of the rubble and doing what I used to do in the military. And then I got a call from my sister. Hey, Dad's been found in his apartment with a gunshot wound to his head and half his head blown off. We need you to come home now. And so going there, right, I had to take time off of my job again because I had a career I was trying to manage. Flying across the world on Christmas or New Year's Eve from 2013 to 14, going into my dad's apartment to see the scene where that happened, where they didn't fully clean everything up and there was still brain matter splattered on his TV and a chalk out on the floor and giant puddle of blood stained on the carpet and all that. That really hit me pretty hard because I was going there with my brother and my sister, and they couldn't stomach it. Both of them, my brother vomited immediately and he ran to the car. My sister started crying, and it's like, I can't do it. So I was the one that had to go into the apartment and salvage some of our family heirlooms and kind of get stuff out of there before the police totally sealed it off as a crime scene. Like, my dad's apartment manager was nice enough to let us do that. And so a few days after doing that, I have to fly back across the world, back to Asia, and go back to work and just kind of carry on like nothing happened. And that's when things started to really unravel. I got my insomnia came back. I'd have constant flashbacks to that scene. Then all the stuff from the military would start really coming up. And I guess it was like kind of having a broken arm and then someone hitting it really hard. You know what I mean? You're kind of keeping stuff together, but some new injury comes in and it really just makes everything fall apart. So that was a point for me. And I leaned into my unhealthy, toxic coping mechanisms I learned in the military. Drink it away. So it started out with, once or twice a week, and then once or twice a day. Sometimes, like if I wasn't at work at my desk doing my job, I wasn't sober, and I couldn't be because it was just too much. And I was just trying to compartmentalize and shove everything down and keep busy, and it was failing pretty bad. I was starting to have these mood swings, these erratic outbursts of emotion. Like I couldn't really separate what I was feeling versus what I should do. Like the muscle that holds that giant barking dog in a cage was starting to get really, really weak, and it started to affect my career. I remember I was at work one day, and then we had a disagreement with a different coworker, and I chewed him out the same way I would chew out somebody that was one of my juniors, and I made a grown man cry in the middle of the office.
Nice. I mean,
and
I praise you for that. However,
you see, this is the reinforcement that keeps us in these patterns. Exactly. See that?
Fuck yeah, he had it coming.
Yeah.
I know.
But everybody in my office was shocked, and they were afraid. Like, oh my God. And shortly after that, not to my surprise, I was let go. Right? And then this would happen when if my previous fiance, my previous relationship, that my emotions would come out on her a lot because we're closest together. And that relationship also fell apart. And I remember after a weekend of binging and drinking and partying and kind of digging myself down this dark hole with substance abuse, she told me that, hey, this isn't working out. You really need help. And I wasn't trying to hear it. I was really resistant to the idea. And then that's when I made an attempt to end my life. Luckily, she stopped me. She was about 130, 140 pounds, British woman. She tackled me into the wall in my room. And I dropped the weapon I was holding, and there's a giant hole in the wall from where she rushed in and tackled me to stop me. Luckily, she did, because if she didn't do that, I would not be here. And so that was like, all right, I need help. Like, this is beyond a red flag. This is a giant red siren blaring at 500 decibels.
Right.
Like, this is it. And so I go down to the VA, and I told them, okay, this is what happened. They're like, all right, fill out this paper, come back in 2 weeks, we'll give you an eval. 2 weeks go by, go back there, do an eval. I say, okay, you're going to ask you all these questions. By the end of the evaluation, me and the doctor were both in tears because I just let everything go, and I told her everything that was going on. And they said, all right, this should take about 1.5 to 2 months. Then we're going to let you know what your decision is, and if we can help you or not. 2.5 months go by. Everything progressive in my life was really starting to fall apart. My career was down the tubes. My ex left me. Every day I was just kind of holding on, just to like, what am I doing? I was just kind of feeling lost, but just trying to hold things together the best way I knew how, not to do anything crazy. And so it was, around 2.5 months later, they said, all right, you have a severe case of PTSD. I was like, yeah, obviously. Like, well, what do? How do I talk to somebody? Well, you have to fill out this paper, and then you're going to go and get this paper over here, and this guy might see you in 8 months. Like, what the fuck do you mean 8 months? They said, yeah, we have a backlog of mental health patients. And like, you don't like it, you can try another VA. So I started calling other offices, and I was wanting to travel to go to other VAs, and it was the same thing. Standard wait time was 6 to 8 months for mental health. So that was a point where I was like, well, shit, what do I do? So they told me, like, you can just pay for your own treatment with a private doctor. Then you can fill out this form, and then we might reimburse you. We might not, but you might have to get approval from the bureaucratic paperwork run around they give you in these government agencies.
Yeah, I mean, right? I think the system is pretty shitty. And again, I'm not to bite the hand that feeds me, so to speak, because it's the only system we have. But there is a huge disconnect, not only because they're backlogged, understaffed, or underpaid, excuse me, civilian practitioners. There is a failure in the system that I hope that under whatever administration that that we just keep improving on it. So I guess at what point you notice, like, hey, you know what, there's nothing here, or I can't wait this long. I'm going to try something more, out of the norm.
Yeah.
but extreme. So when did you? Because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I want you to tell it.
Well, I would say as a disclaimer, for the United States government to allot billions of dollars just to veterans, I mean, we have it good compared to other countries. To their
Yeah, because
credit,
there ain't
right?
shit anywhere else. I know that
Right.
because
I mean,
I'm from another. I was born and raised in another country.
yeah. I mean, if you look at countries in Europe, I'm not going to badmouth any country that I haven't personally lived in, but if countries in Europe, Asia, like there's nothing like the VA anywhere else but the United States.
Right.
So to their credit, like dad cares about us, but he gives the babysitter money and the babysitter's not spending it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The babysitter's a stripper from freaking the Purple Church in Oceanside.
Dad gave the babysitter $20 for our lunch money, and we're eating off of 5.5, maybe 2 sometimes, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. Like dad cares, but the people managing those funds, something's getting lost in the middle. So I'll just say that. But I started out with a conventional therapist, and the therapist would make me talk about these experiences and then prescribe me this buffet of pills. You need this SSRI and this antidepressant and this sleeping pill. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm already having problems with drinking and substances, and now you want me to take more shit into my body that conflicts with what I'm already doing. Like, then they tell you, if you're taking this, it would be wise if you not drink. Okay, but I drink because I'm fucked up, so we'll just stop drinking. So I stopped drinking, then I started taking this other drug, another medication, but the urge is still there. I need help. I need therapy. I need someone to help me sort. And that wasn't happening. And I was paying this dude like $180 to $200 a session for him to just sit down with me for an hour. I air out all these problems. I get really agitated, and then he says, "All right, take this pill," and that's it. And after doing this for how many times? More than 10 times, spending like $2,000 almost, more than $2,000. I was like, I'm not getting anywhere.
Right.
I was like, I might as well go back to my old dealer and do what I was doing before. It's cheaper. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
and it's more fun. And so I was sitting in my house one day, and I was like, let me just start looking at alternatives. And I remember I came across a study that this practice of forest bathing, was going out in nature, is really good for trauma. I was like, all right, I've always liked nature. I'll just try that. So I leave my phone at home, then I drive like 2-3 hours outside of town, then just go deep in the mountains by myself. That's how it started. I remember doing that. I just go hike, just go out in the middle of the mountains, read the trails, I've never been there before, but I know how to read the trails, and just go get lost in the woods. And I started doing that almost every weekend. And it gave me such a great sense of peace. Just to be present in my body and present myself and present in nature. And I remember coming home one day, I thought, what am I doing here? I'm living in this house where my ex left me. Like my job is pretty much, it's said and done. Like I had, savings and I had my severance pay and all that. Why don't I just go live in nature? Like, fuck this. What am I doing here? This is not bringing me a sense of purpose or happiness. Like I'm maintaining this house. It's just full of all these memories of something that it failed, right? So in 2016, I decided I'm just going to go move out to the jungle. So I got on a flight and I moved out to the jungles of the Philippines. I had a friend who had property that he had leased a long time ago. He said, it's just sitting there. Why don't you go live out there, man? Go take it over. And so I took all my savings and all the money that I had, and I built a sustainable community, like an eco-village out there. The construction time was a year. So during that time, I learned how to live out there with the people that were from that area, the Kalibogan Tumundok tribes in Central Visayas in the Philippines. And living with them, it was kind of just went full in. I went full like Avatar, like with the tribes out there. Wild, man.
Yeah.
I went down to the thrift shop where all the locals bought like used old clothes, and then I was paying them to build for me, but I also joined the team as a recruit, I guess.
Yeah.
And I learned their ways. I learned to speak their language. I learned how to cut and harvest bamboo. I learned how to build the way they build, because they don't use any nails. They tie everything together with fishing line because it doesn't rot, and when the wind comes, it moves, right? So I learned how to do that. I learned how to farm. I learned how to sail. I learned how to hunt. I was just out there. I was climbing coconut trees 3 times a day. I even went full wild, man. Sailing around on different islands. it was great. And the fact that I was integrating into the community made them respect me. And it was a great experience. And after the first year when my place was built, I was inviting people over for eco tours. So I would take people off grid to the different islands in the Philippines that the tourists don't go. Beautiful places. You wouldn't even believe these places look like they're out of Jurassic Park, right? No buildings, no people, no trash, nothing, pure. And when that was happening, I was feeling a lot better. You know, I was starting to unpack a lot of stuff. I had a sense of purpose. I was calming down. I was having a healing experience, but I realized I wasn't healed because there's a caveat, right?
Right.
Having a healing experience means you're not fully healed. You just had an experience. So when I would get around tourists and guests that would complain and just kind of be civilians, I'd still kind of fly off the hinges on them sometimes. I'm going to leave you a bad review because I don't like it. Fuck you, fuck your food. Get the fuck out of my place. Like I would turn into that guy again, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And it wasn't good for business, obviously. Because you know how people are, they're going to go write reviews on the internet or take videos of you flipping out. Yeah, I'm going to put a bad Google review. Like, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. Get the fuck out of my place. Like, I was still had this sense of aggression, right? So I was like, all right, I need to take this a little bit deeper to the next level. Like, I got my training wheels on the bike now, and I can ride in circles. I need to get these training wheels off. So I started doing more research. And that's when I came across a study that was done by the VA and the University of Indiana on how yoga practices were helping veterans with PTSD. It's a controlled study of 120 people doing yoga 3 times a week. And they reported after 18 months, they said reduced PTSD symptoms, better sleep, better quality of relationships, better impulse control, better managing of emotions, better integration into civilian life. I was like, all right, that sounds interesting. Fuck it, I'm going to India. So I hired somebody to maintain my place, and I packed my bags and I flew over to the foothills of India to the city of Rishikesh. That's the city where yoga was created. So that's the source. That's the mecca of yoga.
The mecca of, yeah. I mean, I did a show in regards to yoga and the benefits. And let me tell you, like you and I spoke the other day, I was that guy that I would make fun of. You know, oh man, yoga's for pussies.
Yeah,
you know, hippies, blah blah blah. And
it's not a real workout. You're doing yoga because you're too much of a pussy. You go to the gym. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and the benefits of it. I mean, one, I don't skip a day. 2, and it's great for sex. If you don't believe me, I'm telling you, try it but you got to try it for at least 60 days. But let me tell you, for guys, and I hate to say it because now I'm you know, for guys my age, I'm in my 50s. I mean, it does fucking wonders, gents.
Yeah,
just saying. So.
Yeah. So I remember I showed up I wanted to go to a yoga teaching course, right? Or yoga training course. But all the ones I was finding, like it's been capitalized, right? It's been exploited and commercialized. So going to these schools, and it seemed like just like an iteration of a college kind of class where you have these kids that are in their 20s, maybe late 20s, early 30s, and they're having these kind of gossips and arguments about who's fucking the instructor and how many people don't like each other. And I just went into these and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is not what I'm looking for. Like, I'm not here to hang out with a bunch of these fucking kids. Like, I need to learn this shit for real. And so after going to about 10 different schools, I was about to give up. I'm like, fuck, this is, what am I doing here? So I was in this place in Rishikesh called Laxmanjula. And I went down to the river. And I remember I started walking just down the road. Just started walking. And I ended up walking around 3.5, 4 kilometers. I ended up this place called Ramjula. And there's a famous site in Rishikesh called the Parmath Nikitan Ashram. It's a famous ashram, known worldwide. And in front of it is the Ganges River. And in front of the river, there's it's crazy. There's a bunch of giant bulls running around that could easily kill you, right? They're huge, like 1,000-pound bulls everywhere. They call them Nandi. And there's cow shit everywhere, and there's giant monkeys, these langur monkeys, and these little macaque monkeys that go around and steal your shit. And there's thousands of people. It's just chaos. And so I just sat down by the river, and this guy in a dhoti, and a turban came up to me. He said, "My friend, what are you looking for?" And I was like, "What? Are you trying to sell me hash or something, bro?" I was like, I'm kind of not. I'm not really wanting to get into that right now." He's like, "No, what are you looking for in you? You're troubled. What are you looking for in you?"
Wow. It's really
And I sat there and I started talking to him. Just he had a really good vibe about him, and I just was talking to him. I'm a friendly guy. I like to talk to people. I came to discover that this guy used to be a banker for Citibank India, and he decided to leave all that whole life behind and be a renunciate. In India, they call it a sadhu. It's basically like a holy man, like someone who renounces the world to fully live the yogic practice according to the Vedas. And I started just talking to him that day, and then he told me, he's like, "All right, I'm going to show you how to do the water purification in the Ganges River." I was like, "Are you sure? Is it safe?" He's like, "Yeah, you'll be fine, no problem." And he said this mantra.
Don't
He
drink
said this
it.
mantra. Well, it was crazy. He said this mantra. I can't even repeat it. It was really, really long. It lasted about 30 seconds of him saying this mantra really quickly. And then he's like, "Now I say this mantra, in your time in India, no sick. No worry, no sick." I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't believe him. So we go down to the river, and then the water is freezing. Like, it's probably around, what, 6 degrees Celsius? I don't know what that translates to Fahrenheit. I've been overseas for a long time. It's cold. It's cold enough where it hurts your body to get in.
Really?
And then we went in the river. Then after that, I felt great. I felt amazing. So I went back to my room. Then the next day, I went to the same place that I found him. And he was there the next day. And then every day, I started progressively just talking to him and learning little bits from him. And then after the 5th day, I'm like, you know what? I think this is my teacher. And I asked him, like, "Hey, man," his name was Dharmat Puri. I was like, "Will you be my teacher? I want to learn yoga." He's like, "Yes, I am your guru now. You're my chilla." Chilla means my disciple. And so he invited me into his world. And so I was with these Indian holy men. And the only possessions they had were a bag to carry their things and just 2 dhotis. That's all they had. And they would go around, they would take alms, they'd go to temples. I was in that little world with them for 3 months. I was going around the foothills of the Himalayas. I was going into sleeping in temples on floors. I was doing the rites. I was practicing yoga every single day, twice a day sometimes. In order to sit with them, you have to sit in Padmasana, which is the lotus pose. That's where you have to fold your legs like a pretzel. In the beginning, it's really, really difficult to do because it hurts.
How is this? I mean, I can't put like my I mean, I'm pretty flexible, but I can't do the whole like legs like this, and actually your legs fucking fall asleep.
Yeah. But like the practice of doing Padmasana, right? Like this is always explained to me. This is a difference between commercial yoga and yoga for a spiritual practice.
Okay.
The idea is, in the beginning, you use the body as a vehicle to focus your awareness into your present activity. Because if you try to meditate after, doom scrolling or just coming home from work, your mind's all over the place.
Right.
It's hard to be present. So you use the breath and the body as a vehicle to channel your awareness into your body. Once you do that, you graduate that awareness to the self. And then you can be in a position to meditate because you've graduated your focus from your body to your internal body. They call it your doshas, right? Once you have your focus into your internal body, then you can do something called dhyana, which is focused meditation. So this is a progression. When you're able to do Padmasana, you do a certain series of yoga poses that releases deep-seated tension within the body. So a lot of emotion comes out. A lot of experiences start to unpack. A lot of things come to the surface. And in the progress of doing that, you progressively let go of emotions that you're holding on to. Because in the Ayurvedic science, Ayurveda is like the Indian medical science, they have a belief that every corresponding emotion that you're holding on to creates an effect in the body on a physiological level. And there's places in the body where different emotions are stored. Like grief, for example. If someone is sad and feeling grief, they do this. They're hunched over and they have a heavy feeling in their chest because they say grief is stored in the lungs. Anger, for example, is stored in the liver. So if you have an angry alcoholic who drinks every day, he usually gets a liver problem, liver cirrhosis.
Oh, wow. That's
Tension, stress, and worry are stored in the hips. So if you're an older man and you're doing a lot of yoga and you're increasing the circulation to your hips and your root chakra area, obviously it's going to increase your sexual performance because there's more energy and blood flow and nutrients getting to that area of your body, right? So scientifically learning this really helped me unpack a lot of stuff. All these kind of monsters in the closet sort of coming to the forefront. And one of the key takeaways of the experience is that the mystic and the lunatic are almost the same person. The only difference is that the mystic has practices when the lunatic does not.
Whoa, it's pretty
So
deep.
when you start to do this stuff and you start to meditate and you start to open up these memories and experiences, you do these practices, you're going to effectively lose part of your mind. You are like, you're going into different dormant parts of your mind that you don't visit normally. And this is why in New Age spirituality, you have so many crazy people, right? You have these people that wear crystals on their forehead and they think they're from, the Pleiades and all this other kind of wacky shit. Right? Because the exploration of this practice it requires you to be grounded in the disciplines, which is something that's conveniently left out of New Age spirituality. The discipline, the commitment, the dedication. Like every day you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That was my training. Every day, no matter what time you go to sleep, every day you wake up 04. And then you start your day with chanting, prayers, meditation, asana, and then sitting in padmasana and doing the rites. This is something you have to discipline yourself every day. You have to practice brahmacharya, which is sexual discipline. So you're not allowed to pleasure yourself or have lewd thoughts or go through the act of sex while you're training. It's strictly forbidden. But then you turn around in New Age practices and people are jumping in bed with each other left, right, and center and doing tantra and all this other stuff. So I don't know, not to go in too long of a tangent, but I guess the main takeaway from this is that when you start to explore deeper parts of the mind, you have to really ground it in the traditional disciplines and framework that contain the experience, because if not, you become a fucking lunatic.
So after you were in, how long were you in India?
That I've been to India about 4 times. That time around, I was there for 3.5 months.
And
going
then
through that.
After you went through that process, I guess, that one stint, so to speak, what happened from there? Because I know you went somewhere else.
So from there, I was able to unpack a lot, and I really transformed a lot. I really got a lot out. Like there was a lot.
What did you get out of it then?
I was able to release a lot of baggage. Number one, because all the compartmentalized emotions and all the things I just shoved down, they come right up in your face when you do these practices.
Okay.
And so I had to confront a lot of things, how I really felt about my father's death, how I felt about my experiences in the military. All of the things I swept under the rug emotionally were all coming to the surface for processing. And doing a lot of that processing, it kind of really made me realize what healing really means in terms of an unconventional definition, right? Healing is a process of deflation. Meaning, if I have emotions around a certain experience and they're very charged and powerful, whenever I get triggered, whenever the conscious mind aligns with that experience, the emotion hijacks the thought process. Right? You can see this when people get triggered and aggressive. If you say something they don't like and they have a lot of emotion behind it, the emotion will hijack the thought processes because it's very powerful.
Right.
It's highly charged, right? The process of healing is deflating those emotions so they can't hijack the thought process. So it starts out as this, giant 248-pound convict with huge muscles and tattoos. And by the time you go through it enough, it ends up being a little 10-year-old twerp. Where you just look at it and say, okay, I can recognize you, but you're not hijacking my thought processes anymore. You're not affecting me like you used to. Because the emotional energy behind the experiences have been processed and released. So that was the biggest takeaway from India. So to answer your question, the next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to go reclaim my warrior practices. So I went to China and I studied martial arts in a Shaolin temple in the city of Rizhao, which is near Qingdao, kind of the central northeastern side of China.
And what did you, man? Because I think you've taken a very I don't know, I guess like not only spiritual, but I mean, this is like shit that you see in the movies where somebody goes in this walkabout, but first you hit, going, becoming very primal, going into the jungle and stuff. From there, now you became this spiritual sort of Buddha approach to the self, and now you're going into Shaolin 36 chambers,
Mm.
freaking Wu Tang, and let's just become fucking John Wick type of shit. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, with the caveat here, man, like studying martial arts for the purpose of violence is not something that I was
Right. Yeah, it's
really
completely
after, right?
different. Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about the practice of martial arts, it originated from Buddhism, right? The whole
Right.
Shaolin temples and whole thing, because an Indian monk called Bodhidharma, in Chinese they call him Damo, he traveled across the Himalayas to share Buddhism with the Taoists in China. And he taught them yogic and meditation techniques to strengthen their practice, their spiritual practices, because they didn't have those in those areas of China. And so what happened was they would have these temples that were sponsored by the state. They had a lot of gold statues that were in honor of the Buddha, but thieves and robbers would come and try to take them. So the monks were left with no choice but to try to defend them, because if the thieves and robbers took the statues away, the state wouldn't sponsor them anymore. And sometimes they would have to face punishment from the rulers, right? So they developed fighting system based on mimicking the movements of animals, because they're in nature. This is why in Chinese martial arts you have all these animal styles, because those were their teachers in terms of mimicking movements and adapting them to human physiology. So the whole premise was protection and defense. It wasn't about, I'm a killer assassin, I'm going to go beat everybody up. It's you stay in your Buddhist practices and you stay in your peace, but if someone comes to rob you or harm you, you got to handle them, because if not, the ruler is going to give you hell to pay because you lost
Right.
a 300-ton gold statue. You got to answer for that, right? That was kind of the premise it was built on way back then. So for me, learning martial arts was re-tapping into a warrior practice without the compartmentalization. How do I use those emotions and tap into that to get to a new plateau in training? And that was an intense experience. I stayed about 3.5 months there. It was in the Jian Taigong Martial Arts Academy in Rizhao City. My teacher was a 36th generation grandmaster in Chinese martial arts. His name was Master Zhang. He was about 5'6", about 160 pounds of muscle. And he could wipe the floor with me easily. And I thought I was kind of a tough guy because, I was in the military, then I did some boxing and I practiced martial arts on my own. But getting there, it just really humbled me a lot. And I remember the beginning of training. In China and Japan, Korea, the traditional way, it's not because they want to keep you in the studio paying your student fees. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? In there, it's just you have to learn these disciplines. So you're going to do the same boring stuff every day until we feel like you're ready. And if you don't like it, you can kick rocks because we don't need you. That's their attitude.
Right. Yeah.
So they don't rush you through the basics. So when I got there, the first 3.5 weeks was just doing the same stuff, to the point I was so angry and frustrated and bored, because I thought I deserved to practice better stuff because I'm special, right? That's what I thought. I had this ego. And, just to give you an idea of a typical day, at 4 o'clock in the morning, they ring the gongs, and then they start doing the Buddhist prayers and meditation, or Buddhist chanting, and that's your call to come to meditation. So you come into the temple and they have the 3 Buddha statues, and then you have to do the sutras, which is all done in Chinese. But if you're a Westerner, you just kind of sit there and follow along, and they have like an English translation where the Chinese words are written in Roman letters, but you probably can't follow along until you've been doing it for like a month. Then after that, you do half an hour of Tai Chi practice and then Qigong as the sun is rising. After that's done, then you go to breakfast, where you have a small breakfast that consists of like vegetables, soybeans, and noodles. And maybe some days you'll get a little bit of milk and cereal if, they want to cater to Westerners, but mainly it's their breakfast. It's noodles, soybeans, carrots, a few vegetables, and that's it. Then you eat your light breakfast, and then The next thing you do after that is you have to get your water allotment for the day. So you have this big 5.5-liter jug, and you have to run 6.5 kilometers up the mountain to go to the holy spring to get your water. That's the only water you're allowed to drink. And so you fill that up, and then you run back for morning training. And you do this twice a day, and you have to do it within 20 minutes. If you're a minute over 20 minutes, your punishment is 150 push-ups on the spot. So you do that once in the morning when training starts, and you do it again in the afternoon. So after you get your water, you show up for morning training. This is 4 hours of doing movements, learning the tau, they call it, the forms, the movements, doing calisthenics exercises, and learning the techniques and basic exercises in the system. 12 o'clock rolls around, and then you eat lunch. And lunch, they give you a long lunch break, which is 2 hours. So you eat lunch, which consists of more vegetables, noodles. They give you a bit more tofu. Like, you don't really get a lot of meat there because it's against their prime mushrooms sometimes. And then you get an hour break to kind of rest and relax. And then at 2 o'clock, you do you run to get your water again. Same thing again. And then you do your afternoon training, which consists of the same thing. And this happens 6 days a week.
And what happens on the 7th day?
So the end of the 6th day is the worst. This is called the temple run, right? So you'll have to climb up a mountain. The mountain is about 800 to 1,000 meters. And then you go up one side of it, and then you go down the other side to the temple. The temple has around 3,182 steps. And so the temple run means you have to run from the bottom of the temple all the way to the top and back. That's one repetition. You have to do that 10 times after a whole week of training. And then after that, the next day you have a rest day where you're allowed to stay in your room, sleep, stretch. You can study Chinese calligraphy, study the language, go out in town. You can go to the grocery store and buy the stuff you need. And that was it. I did that for 3.5 months, and it was rough. It was a rough experience. But I remember there was a point where Master Zhang broke my ego. I was getting really frustrated of doing the same kind of things. And then he brought the translator over. He says, he basically asked me, like, why do you have an attitude? Why are you angry? I told him, I want to learn more techniques. I'm an advanced practitioner. Right? And he's like, okay, attack me. I was like, what? He's like, attack me. And so I tried. And within 3 moves, he had me on the floor, on the ground, choking the shit out of me while he was smiling and laughing. And he got me up. He's like, do it again. I was like, all right. So I tried something else. I couldn't last more than 2 to 3 moves with this guy. Every angle. Like, I was outnumbered. I felt like I was fighting 10 people. Like, no matter what I did, he had an answer for it. And he just casually smiled at me while he was choking the shit out of me or hitting me. And I remember he told me, he said, your aggression is not the answer. Aggression doesn't build skill. Calmness builds skill. And then that's when he started, like, he saw the ego break. So that's when I dropped the attitude and I just gave up. And I was like, all right, fine. If this is all I'm going to learn, this is all I'm going to do. And I kept that up for another 2.5 weeks. And he saw that. He saw the change in the attitude. And then he started teaching me more techniques and different things. And by the end of the 3 months, it was kind of almost like a private student. He'd show me these really amazing techniques and exercises and Qigong practices. You have to break bricks with your hands, all that kind of stuff. But by the end of it, I realized that if you approach life with a sense of aggression, you're only thinking through the eyes of anger, and you're only thinking from your own emotional perspective. If you approach life with a sense of neutrality, where you can be the calm in the middle of the storm, you can approach things with a level head and address them a lot better. So that was the main takeaway from that. Because in the military, we're constantly conditioned to be in a state of aggression.
Right.
If anything's wrong, you answer with an extreme sense of aggression. That's what you do. You cheat people out.
Is the
and
word.
Prejudice. And you shame people and you belittle them. You make them feel horrible about themselves, and you make yourself feel better by doing that. And all these kind of bad habits, it all kind of went away because, this is this guy he's shorter than me. 5'6", 5'7". He weighed less than me, but he literally would kick the shit out of me blindfolded while laughing at me. So,
and to go back to your point, I think, more so because we're conditioned that, hey, this is how we assess a threat, we make a decision, and we go go all out, because there is no ifs, ands, or buts. Second guessing will cost lives. So I think, not in the sense prejudice, like, hey, we're fucking, hey, you're white, you're black, whatever. No, but in the sense is because our training. So let me ask you. So after all this and this journey, because we're kind of getting at the peak of our time, how did all this bring it all together for you? Because you went a very unconventional way. Not saying healing, because I know there's good days and bad days, but how did this help you let go of some of that baggage so that the healing can start?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple other chapters in this whole story of going to Tibet and going to the Philippines and living with a troop of spear fishermen during the pandemic and all that. So to kind of sum things up, because we're getting short for time, the whole
we're gonna
idea,
bring
though,
you back, because we're still, I want, and maybe we can make this, if you have time next weekend, we'll up and we can continue on that.
So I basically, to boil it down and systemize it, right? This is what I took away from everything that I went through. Just give you the meat and potatoes, the main dish. Number one, when you start going through a healing process and you realize that you need help or you want to change something, the first thing you need to learn is emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. I can't just shove these feelings away. I need to be able to experience them without them hijacking my thinking. So separating the auto response, right? The second thing is, how do I communicate these feelings in a healthy way that's productive, that gives me the outcomes that I want, that are outside of my conditioning? Right? If someone does something wrong and I put them at attention and chew them out and make them cry, that doesn't create the outcome that I want. That makes things worse, right? It might make me feel good to impulsively act on these things that have been conditioned, but how do I stop myself from creating negative outcomes? Because when you're traumatized and PTSD is running your life, chances are the impulsive behaviors and actions you take create bad outcomes that you have to later do damage control for, right?
Right.
That's why we have so many high divorce rates in the military, because we get around people we're emotional with, like our partner, and they get the full spectrum of us. And a lot of times we don't make people feel too great with our outbursts and the things that we do, right? That's why we get a lot of divorces, and you're trying to send flowers and say you're sorry afterwards, and they don't want to hear it because the damage is done, right? So that's the first, that's the premise of it. Learn emotional and maturity and emotional intelligence. The thing after that is deconditioning and deprogramming. There's an acronym I created called TURBO, TERBO, which means this is how you're psychologically conditioned: trigger, emotion, reaction, behavior and belief, and then outcome. So if you can identify your triggers, you'll be able to feel the emotion. When the emotion comes on, it elicits a reaction. I feel a sense of panic and anger. The reaction is, am I going to compartmentalize or act on this? 9 times out of 10, we compartmentalize. And the times we act on it, we do it because we need to, right? And when we act on it or compartmentalize, it creates a behavior and a belief. So we're going to do something or act a certain way or take on a certain attitude or persona. And when we do that, it creates an outcome. Now, most of the time, if we're not aware, those outcomes are not what we want. They're bad outcomes. The outcomes they're shit outcomes, because it drives people away from us. It ruins career opportunities. It ruins relationships. It has a huge internal toll on ourselves, but it's all we know because that's how we're conditioned, right? And so learning to pick those apart and relieve the emotions behind that, those charged emotions that we've been programmed and conditioned and compartmentalized, is the next step, the deflation process. How do we experience these things in our own controlled environments so they're not so highly charged that they hijack our thinking automatically?
Right.
When we can do that, then it brings us to a point of just maintenance. Because with PTSD, you're never going back to the way you were. Like, damage is done, dude. Like, it's like breaking a leg in 10 places and the doctor heals it by putting a metal pole in your leg. And sure, the bone will heal around it and you can walk, but you're never going to be like you were when you're 16, when you can sprint down the football field in 2 minutes. It's never going to happen. Yeah. So the only thing that you can really hope for is you can do maintenance enough on yourself and with an awareness that you have these kind of things about you to carry on life, to live a better quality of life, because you have to be in control in the driver's seat. Because the main takeaway I learned from this whole thing is, like, you can't outsource your healing to an organization without playing by its rules and following its agenda.
That's true.
Meaning, if the VA or conventional psychology's agenda is to fill you full of medications and do it their way because that's how they know how to do it, then that's your option because you're relying on them. If you have a problem and you don't want that, then it's your job to figure it out. Because maybe it's not your fault. Yeah, the military fucked you up. We all have our story. It's not your fault, but it's your problem because you got to deal with it. So you got to take control. You got to sit in the driver's seat and do something about it. And that's what I did. And hopefully I can start to share this with people because there's a lot of people out there that need a lot of help. And what I found makes sense and it works great for me. Maybe it's not for everybody, but if I can explain this rationally and put it in terms where people understand it and make it practical, then I feel like they can benefit from it.
Now, you wrote a book, and it's on the show description as well. And do you also do coaching as well?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
obviously
definitely.
because, Western medicine and everything, blah, blah, blah. But you do, and I think, because a lot of stuff, I'm somebody who, I believe Western medicine has a place.
Yeah.
However, it's not the Band-Aid that will keep it all together. So, but tell us a little bit about what you do and the help and the resources that you provide, bro.
So if anybody wants to read the book, it's there. It's, I don't know, I think like $20 on my website, something like that. And it goes through the whole story. It's 220 plus pages outlining everything, every step of the way, between living in the Philippines, going to India, going to China, going to Tibet, living back on an island during the pandemic, learning freediving and spearfishing for breath control, all that kind of stuff. And it sums up the journey and it makes it practical and easy to understand. So that's the easiest way to get some of the information. If you have a specific problem you're trying to address, if you've been failed by the system, if you want to learn mindfulness, if you want to take a different approach, then I definitely help people. I have a one-to-one option or a group coaching option. We get in a group and we talk about these things and we go through the practices. So I teach people the practices that I've learned and how to implement them in frameworks with lifestyle changes so you can actually start to get a handle on this and learn how to tame this beast and coexist it. It's like taking a wild dog that's a wolf and taming it to be your house dog. That's what's happening in your head. You have this wild dog of charged emotions and past experiences and trauma, and you got to show it who the master is, and you have to know how to train the dog, I guess, figuratively speaking. So the techniques are around training the mind, training the body, and putting yourself in a routine where you can be in a state of mind and being where those things are not hijacking your thinking. Now, are you going to have bad days? Sure. You are. You're human. We all have bad days. But these practices and these frameworks are going to help you recover and help you manage things a lot better so you can enjoy life without being held hostage by your past. And I think that's really, really important for a lot of people suffering from this stuff because you're anchored to your past.
Yeah. No. Dude, it's been a really cool show. As a matter of fact, we usually run around 35, 40 minutes, but
oh, okay.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's a great conversation. I think maybe next week we'll work out the details after the show, but I definitely, I think it's important to, so I know we skipped some really, some other parts of your journey, but I think to, kind of leave them hanging. And for, hey, look, and by the way, if I started reading the book, Rob and I just connected this week. I myself started reading the book. There's a lot of good stuff that obviously it's kind of like watching a movie. When they make a movie out of an entire book, I mean, you're not going to get every details because of time frame, but I'm telling you, it's well worth. I mean, $20 is really underpriced to be quiet. I do a lot of reading. So I highly encourage everybody here to go to his website and read this book because there's a lot of good shit that we're missing in between that we talked about. And it just makes you like, oh man, I mean, some of you may call it extreme. Well, that's pretty extreme to kind of address his things. But I will beg to differ because, aren't we worth it? Aren't we worth that journey? Aren't we worth going to extreme, if this is what we got and this is the only body, mind, soul, and spirit that we have, isn't it worth it to go to extremes so that you can go, find yourself again and live out this remaining lifetime, in tune and aligned? I mean, shit, I think so. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the military, you go through extremely traumatizing experiences, so you need extreme solutions sometimes.
Yeah, 100%, dude. So, hey, everybody, it's been Rob. Dude, you're an amazing individual.
Thank you.
Definitely,
Appreciate it.
we'll work that stuff out. But yeah, we'll definitely have to bring you back so we could, give them a little bit of the rest of your story. And thanks for your service, brother. And keep
Thank
up the
you.
good
Thank you
fight,
for
man.
service as well. Thank
Thanks,
you.
brother.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Appreciate it. Take care. Hey, I'm telling you, you gotta go on. The website is right there in the show description. Go on it, download the book, read it, sketch. If you're struggling, just like I always close out the show about, hey, if you're struggling with rumination, you're going down a dark hole that you can't get out of, you're having thoughts of harming yourself, all that stuff. I mean, here's a man that you want to talk to and that you should definitely link up with, because like me, he's been there. He's been at the edge right there, about to take that leap that you can't come back from. I mean, here's an individual that you could use him as a sounding board and you can talk to him. So and also, when was the last time too that you did a buddy check on and checked on one of your friends? So that's my homework from you today. We'll definitely are going to have Rob back. Hopefully we'll be able to bring him really soon to just kind of continue the story. But I think this is a great place to end it. So with that being said, everybody, I just want to say, Ice Tomas, Daisuke. We'll see you next week. All right, get some.